all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. Period. Now, I could end the video right there, but there are some very important nuances that I think need to be discussed. For example, the part where it says subject to the jurisdiction thereof has been a point of debate. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, Donald Trump has signed an executive order called Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship, where he essentially revoked the right of people who are born here but have illegal parents. So if somebody comes here illegally and then has a child, that child, according to the 14th Amendment, is a citizen of the United States. Donald Trump has signed an executive order to reverse that. Now, there are people who are debating the meaning of and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. There's a debate over what that means. In other words, you're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States if your parents are here legally. However, that's not what Congress says. Okay, Congress has already defined the meaning of this particular phrase. I'm on constitution.congress.gov, so the official government website of the Congress. Based on the first sentence of Section 1, the court has held that a child born in the United States of Chinese parents who are ineligible to be naturalized themselves is nevertheless a citizen of the United States entitled to all the rights and privileges of citizenship. There was a court ruling, I think it was in the early 20th century, 1898, where they made a decision. They interpreted this clause and they decided that people born here with legal parents are still considered citizens. Now, there are exceptions to this. Children born of diplomatic representatives of a foreign state, children born of alien enemies in hostile occupation, children members of Indian tribes subject to tribal laws, citizenship of children born on vessels in United States territorial waters or in high seas. So this is a topic of hot debate. Now, I'm willing to consider the idea that perhaps the court ruling wasn't correct. That's subject to interpretation. This is the argument that Trump's executive order is making, that this interpretation in 1898 was incorrect of the law. But this is absolutely subjective. I mean, this is the problem with currently or forever how we viewed laws. And I mean, this extends into religion. Everybody reads the same book, everybody reads the same constitution, and yet just about every person you ask understands it differently and interprets it differently. I think that Trump is going against the spirit of the law. I do think that people who are born on American soil are more American than I am. I'm an immigrant who came here. Now, I'm a citizen. This is my citizenship form right here. Not a copy. That's the original. So I'm a legit citizen since June 13th, 2012. But I can't be president. And people born on this land can be president. And I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair. I don't think it should have anything to do with your parents. What do your parents have to do with you? You're totally different people. You're here now. You're born here. I would be okay with them putting in clauses that, for example, you can't come here, a week before you give birth just for the purposes of giving birth to a child here and then taking off back to your original country. These little loopholes should not be allowed. But I think the spirit of the law here, of this constitutional amendment, is to allow for people that are born here. I mean, that seems very reasonable. Very reasonable. Of course, there's going to be people who abuse this. Maybe people will have kids here on purpose so that they can stay. And then we have to talk about, do we separate parents from children? This is a complex conversation. But nonetheless, I'm going to stick with saying that people who are born here should be here. And I think that Donald Trump is going against the Constitution here, straight up. Now, the other topic of debate is, is the Constitution infallible? In other words, is it this perfect sacred document that we are not allowed to change? Or should we be allowed to reconsider certain elements of the Constitution, like the amendments, which is by definition amendments, in other words, changes to the Constitution? I don't know. I will say this. Trump supporters and conservatives do have an issue with liberals talking about changing aspects of the Constitution like the Second Amendment. Now, when this topic comes up, the people on the left say, well, this amendment was made for muskets. People on the right say, well, no, the amendment was talking about being able to protect yourself against government tyranny, so obviously your weapons have to match kind of the weapons of the government. But how far do you want to take that? I mean, the government has nukes. So should we be allowed to purchase RPGs with nuclear warheads? Because what if the tyrannical government threatens to use nuclear weapons against protesters? How are we going to fight with your AR-15s against nuclear weapons? Now, I've been known to have radical ideas. I'm an anarchist at heart. So I could have that conversation about citizens being allowed to refine uranium in their backyard. But I think that'll put me on a whole nother list. I don't know if I want to be on that list in terms of the government putting me on some kind of list, But I can make a video talking about that. This is a complicated topic in terms of whether we should be able to change the Constitution or not. Is it reasonable to say that we have to consider the times changing and we have to evolve? And I think that the founding fathers understood that times are going to change and that we have to change the Constitution. So I'm willing to have that discussion as long as people are fair about their logic. If you're going to say that we should have the right to change the 14th Amendment and so on and so forth, or redefine what it means, then you have to extend the same courtesy to people on the other side of the political spectrum who want to reconsider what the Second Amendment means and how to interpret it. Because this is the same argument, in my opinion, right? We're talking about how are we interpreting the Constitution. And if you want courtesy to be extended to you to interpret one amendment one way, then you have to extend that courtesy to people trying to reinterpret another amendment. You see what I'm saying? I hope you guys are following this. I know I'm a brilliant genius. I'm talking fast. I've had so much coffee and I continue to have it. Guys, please, I urge you and I almost beg you, let's have a respectful conversation in the comments. Good God. I've never seen stuff like this before in my comment section since I started talking about politics. You guys are animals. Both left and right. Although I think it's funny how conservatives often say how sensitive snowflakes the left is. And then whenever I disagree with something Trump has to say, some of you just have a total meltdown and lose your mind. It's like, dude, you disagree with your spouse, you disagree with your kids, your friends, your neighbors, your fellow churchgoers. You can't disagree with the guy you voted for? It doesn't make you look stupid. It just means that you have a brain. You can think for yourself, for God's sakes. Don't be a tool. Use your own brain. Let's have a respectful conversation. Let's debate this. Can we learn how to debate without being assholes? Please, for the love of God. Okay? I could be wrong about this. And if you think that I'm wrong, convince me otherwise. Convince me, okay? Learn how to formulate a convincing debate rather than calling me names. Guys, I'm a millennial. My feelings get very hurt very fast. Okay, let's talk about it. How do you interpret the 14th Amendment? Do you think Trump was wrong for doing this? And if you think that this part of the Constitution should be changed, do you also extend that same courtesy to people who think that other amendments should be changed? Yes or no? And why do you believe so? Let's talk about it. Please, for the love of God, be respectful. I am watching you. I'm in the comments and I'm watching you. Okay? Be embarrassed to be a dick. Be embarrassed. Cheers.